Friends, it has happened again. Another bank has been seized by the FDIC. Another U.S. bank has collapsed and has been bought out by a bigger bank. We're going to get into that. Of course, we're going to review a little bit of what's going on out there. Pac West Bank collapsing last week and being bought out. And then, of course, we have a whole bunch of other stuff going on here with FDIC doing all sorts of shady things going on with Signature Bank assets that they are liquidating at huge losses. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars lost by another federal agency bailing out the rich and soaking all of us. Let's jump into it, folks. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and we cover news stories here that you don't hear on the news out there, or you don't hear them dive into it in any depth or give you honest feedback about what's going on. So if you like what you see here on the channel, make sure you always hit that thumbs up button to help get it out to more folks. We do want to thank our sponsor, Genesis Gold Group. They do a fantastic job, and I believe that gold, silver, and platinum is the place to be. Physical at home if you can. If you have retirement accounts that you want to get over there, you might want to talk to Jonathan and his team at Genesis Gold Group. You've mentioned this channel. They actually will waive your setup fees. There'll be a link at the end of the video. All right, so Heartland Tri State Bank has just collapsed. Let me make sure I get this right. 197. That's how much Pac West lost last year. Too many big numbers out there. I think it's 139. Yeah, $139 million. So it's a relatively small bank out there. Pac West was right at $40 billion. Pac West is $41 billion in assets, and we have Heartland Tri State Bank out in Kansas City at $139 million. Now, the FDIC did once again secretly go through liquidating the bank and selling it off before they announced it. They have taken this troubling new policy set. They did this with Pac West Bank. They realized it was in trouble. They moved to seize it, but they didn't announce it publicly. Before they went out and seized it, they made sure they had a buyer lined up. And so Pac West Bank Corp was sold to the Bank of California, neither of which country can actually spell bank correctly. It's a joke, folks, but Bank of California is with a C instead of a K. And Bank Corp is BANCORP, which is, I don't know, maybe that's correct. But anyway, the idea that we have two banks in the last week that have now collapsed in the United States. Are you paying attention yet? I keep saying this. We're seeing big things happen right now. If you close your eyes and hum, stick your fingers in your ears and hum, okay, maybe you don't realize anything's going on out there. If you're listening to people like me, if you're listening to people like Economic Ninja and I Allegedly and other preparedness type channels, or conservative news or libertarian news or just honest news out there, you might actually be aware of what's going on with this kind of stuff. Two banks in the last week. Friends, it has restarted. We can't have interest rates going up like this. We can't have assets, toxic assets like offices, office buildings, billion-dollar office buildings that nobody's using. It doesn't work. And when you have places like California who people haven't paid their rent in years. I was just looking over the terms of Los Angeles's, or was it San Francisco? I think it was San Francisco. They're phasing in the evictions, but they're only allowed to evict people who haven't caught up in their rent for the rents due from 2020 to 2021. And you say, but Steve, it's 2023. Right. So if you haven't paid your rent from 2021 to 2023, you can't be evicted until February of next year. That's insane. That's mind-numbingly stupid. Like, people just don't have to pay their rent anymore? And you're giving them years and years and years of free rent, and the penalty at the end of it is they get evicted? They get free housing for years, and then all they have to do is just leave? No criminal prosecution, no nothing. Oh no, their credit score is going to be dinged. Just think about rent for 3 years waived. That's a lot of money, folks. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars in California alone of back rent that is due that hasn't been paid. Where's those billions of dollars coming from? People are blowing up. And as people and small renters, people who have rental property, small businesses that have rental property, medium-sized businesses, and banks that have rental property, they're going broke. What happens when the small mom and pop owner of a rental property just walks away from the mortgage? Just says, you know what? We can't get any money out of this property, and we owe a ton of money to the bank. We're just going to walk away from the property. It's the bank's problem, not ours. Let the bank seize it. That we know the tenants are damaging the property more than it's worth, so tough. Well, we're seeing that. Toxic assets. For example, Signature Bank collapsed months and months ago. Well, the FDIC has just gotten around to starting to sell some of those assets. Remember, they sold off to JP Morgan Chase all the good stuff. And the stuff that JP Morgan Chase says, that's garbage, we're not going to buy it. The FDIC said, okay, so we'll just hold on to these toxic loans. We'll hold all this real estate that nobody's paying mortgages on, and it's just toxic assets. So the FDIC began selling this past week $18.5 billion in bank loans for Signature Bank. Most of his commercial real estate loans. Some hotels. Hotel industry's not doing so well right now, folks. A lot of commercial real estate, like offices and such, where the office buildings are empty. They're not collecting rent. Loans to like Blackstone. I mean, defunct loans to Blackstone. I mean, you know they were going to be here somewhere. We're talking, just to put this in perspective, they're selling it for these loans for $18.5 billion. That's how much they're hoping to get for them. Whether anyone will actually pay that much for them is another story. The FDIC, or let's just say the U.S. government, you and I, we paid $60 billion for these assets. Now, I don't mean to nitpick, but so we lost $40 billion in the Signature Bank collapse? $40 billion? Remember back when we were being told that $15 billion for a border wall was absolute insanity? But then our government just kind of goes by and just, here's $40 billion, we'll just burn on bailing out Signature Bank. That's what happened. That's what happened. $40 billion to bail out rich bankers. Zero for a border wall. It's hard not to think that they are purposely trying to destroy our country. How can you read that any way else? And I know I'm throwing out billions and billions and billions of dollars, and you know, that's roughly about the defense equipment and all that garbage that we sent over to Eastern Europe. You know, it's in the ballpark. It's not the same number, but it's in the ballpark. So we did this quick little bailout of Signature Bank that don't ask questions about it. We just took care of it. Oh, okay, it got taken care of. That's cool. And then we're fighting a war with the Russians for approximately the same amount of money. See a problem with that at all? Rome isn't in danger. Rome is already burning, okay? The flames are everywhere. You just have to open your eyes and look. The FDIC selling $60 billion worth of assets for $18.5 billion. So where did the $42 billion go? Don't ask those kind of questions. Wait until they start liquidating the Silicon Valley Bank assets. It'll be a little bit before they do that, but when they do, expect more fireworks like this. No one's going to report on it. No one's going to report on it because, you know, what's another $60, $80 billion out of the U.S. government pockets and such like that? Well, $40 billion just disappeared. Glad no one was paying attention to that one. We could have built like 3 border walls with that much money. We could have built the southern border wall, and we could have put one up by Canada too to keep those crazy folks up on their side of the border. We're getting many reports of a lot of people crossing illegally across the northern border these days. No one's talking about that because they ain't Hispanics coming across the northern border for the most part. Yeah, Middle Eastern, Chinese, folks from other parts of Asia, people who don't want to be picked up by Border Patrol. I'm sure they have the best of intentions for coming into the United States. The folks that don't think they would be released by the Border Patrol if they get caught on the southern border are coming through the unprotected northern border. One thing after the next, folks. Pac West, $41 billion in assets. Question I have for you, how big of a hit is the federal government going to take on that one? $139 million for this Heartland Tri State Bank? Okay, that'll probably be a lighter hit for the U.S. government. But how many more banks are to come? What happens when PNC Bank goes kablooey? What happens when U.S. Bank goes kablooey? What happens when other major banks go kablooey? JP Morgan Chase. Kabloom. Then we might not be talking about billions of dollars. We may be talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, or we may be talking about trillions of dollars. That's the state of where we are right now. $5 trillion in commercial real estate that is potentially underwater. Loans that are non-performing. We have a massive crisis on our hands there, and that's not even talking about all the other stuff we got going on. Our banking system is completely fraudulent, and to say otherwise is just not truthful. So, there goes another bank. We'll have to see in the news in 4 to 6 months how much we lost on that one. And about that time, we'll get the information out of what happened with the Pac West Bank, too. These are not, Pac West was not small. Pac West was not small, folks. How much of their assets were toxic? They took a major hit when Silicon Valley went down. Dominoes falling, folks. Dominoes. All right, folks, if you guys have updates out there, please do keep your updates coming. Just use the word update in a comment and give us some sort of geographical location, what you're seeing where you are, or if you're hearing about stuff at work, supply chain stuff. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there. Or if you want to talk to Jonathan and his team over at Genesis Gold Group, there is a link right there to get to the website. And they will answer all your questions about moving your retirement funds over to gold, silver, or platinum coins. and talk about what your options are with that. All right, thanks so much for watching. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.